Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome everybody to Phoenix Down Radio, episode number 109. I'm your host, Klauss Nightbringer. Joining us this week, we have Seyrr Timono. Seyrr, how are you doing this week?
I'm hoping the mic wasn't live for that last bit. I'm doing all right.
You're fortunate it wasn't. We also have joining us, Taliz Marvelous, the most interesting potato on the planet. How are you, my friend?
I am doing well and starchy as hell.
Hey, that even rhymed. That was pretty sweet.
Is that like salty?
Yes.
Okay.
Except I'm a tank, so I have to be starchy.
So everything sticks to you?
That's the goal.
Excellent. And we have a special guest this week. Joining us is the creator and author of Final Fantasy VII Old World of Darkness, a fan-made adaptation and scenario using the Old World of Darkness system, Justin Blasdel. Justin, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about your awesome creation.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's Justin Blasdel.
So, I'm sorry. I should have asked that ahead of time. That's a terrible host. I just didn't.
About that professionalism thing we were talking about.
Yeah, we don't have it.
No.
I'm not offended. You're
Justin Blasdel.
Gets it right.
Thank you so much for joining us. If it had an I in there, it would have been easier, but I should have asked initially. Anyway.
Well, it's
reading,
super
guys.
Americanized, so it's like, they're like, oh, take as many letters out as possible to make it look even more American. Now no one can pronounce it.
Welcome to Ellis Island.
Yes. A friend of mine and her mom have two different spellings of the last name because, like, grandma got a spelling, and then grandma misspelled moms, and then mom misspelled daughters. So, like, across 3 generations, they have the same last name with, like, 2 letters different.
Professional.
Yeah, really funny, Nick Narth, but thank you for the resub. We really do appreciate that.
Free subs! Awesome.
All right. So how was it? We were gone for, it was been 3 weeks since our last episode, so we had a little bit of extra time because of Thanksgiving. So how does everybody's Thanksgiving?
Seyrr, you have to go last because yours was the best.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it ahead of time, so we kind of knew what was going on, but...
Just go, you punks.
Oh, fine. Okay, well, turkey tastes like napkins, so there's that. But I did make the cornbread stuffing from the Bon Appetit series, and it was awesome and got completely devoured. It was a good time hanging out with family and friends, and it was really nice not having to work for a couple of days.
And of course, we had to throw in Bon Appetit right away.
Oh, I threw it in there. I do the recipe. I mean, come on, I gotta give credit.
Yeah, you credit your sources. That's like
I was gonna say, Seyrr would actually murder me if I did not cite my sources.
no plagiarism on my watch.
Exactly.
Sure.
I guess I'll go next.
Go on ahead, please.
Yeah, like I said, I had 4 different Thanksgivings, one of them being yesterday. So I have food for
dang.
quite a while.
Ooh. Anything especially amazing that you got to partake in?
Well, one of those Thanksgivings, my daughter got bit by a dog, so that was kind of interesting. But
Oh shit.
but yeah, other than that, and my life partner, she was able to create an unusual vegetable medley where it was like beets and sweet potatoes, and it was a weird mixture. And smelling it smelled like a pizza, which was weird because when we were on our way over to one of the friends, it was in our car, and the gas attendant, I'm in Oregon, so we have gas attendants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was doing, getting our money. He's like, I don't know what you have in that car, but it smells great. And it made her day to hear that.
Aw,
That's pretty
very
cool.
sweet.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I had just 2 Thanksgivings. I had to work actual Thanksgiving Day because, well, casinos never close. So
No.
so that's a thing. But when I went to the folks, we had the standard turkey and dressing and stuff like that. I was sad though there was no pumpkin pie. I have a nephew who's got gluten issues, so he can't have a lot of normal gluten stuff. So
like the pie crust and possibly some stuff with the filling.
yeah. So instead they made gluten-free little basically pie shots.
No, that that works, because if you try to do like a gluten-free full-on crust, it just doesn't work the same way.
Actually,
Yeah.
I did finally get pie up at my at the other Thanksgiving I had, and that was actually made with a gluten-free crust.
That's crazy.
And the fact that my birth mom has issues with dairy, it used it was pumpkin and cashew milk,
Yep.
and there was something else in there, but it was actually really good pie.
I can imagine the cashew milk actually working super, super well with that.
Yeah, and but
Yeah.
the other thing that sucks is they have turkey allergies, so we had Asian chicken wings.
Turkey allergies?
Yeah, that side of the
Poultry?
family has some
Alright.
really odd allergies, so we roll with it. But we get some really interesting food out of it.
Yeah, I
Fair.
guess so.
Now we get to hear what Seyrr had and be jealous.
Like this was one of the years where it was just me and my parents, so we decided we didn't want to bother with any of the cooking or the having absurd amounts of leftovers, and we just went to a steakhouse. I had the filet with shallot and blue cheese butter.
And we all hate you.
You know, you could make this yourself. Our butters are not even that hard.
No, it's not that. No.
Uh,
Am I weird for not really liking filet mignon?
no.
Everyone's got their own taste, but yes. Well, not for that. There's other reasons.
You have poor people taste buds. Mwahaha.
No.
I'm the crazy bastard that's like, I would like half a cow, please.
Mm,
I
I
want
won't-
all of the types of steak.
Just give me a ribeye, bloody,
Yep.
or maybe a nice piece of A5 Wagyu.
I love Wagyu so much.
I know, right?
It's so good.
Anyway, this isn't Bon Appetit.
This one wasn't even my fault.
This is Phoenix Down Radio.
It's a Thanksgiving episode or post.
Post Thanksgiving. Yeah.
This is our the tryptophan fueled episode.
Yeah.
Sure. Or the maybe it's the after effects of not having tryptophan for a while.
Also, I taught my
Leftovers.
mom to do an asparagus saute.
Ooh, nice. Asparagus
That
is
sounds
lovely.
rad.
Yeah. It was just like a super simple, throw a little water into the frying pan along with the butter, put the lid on so it steams briefly so you get your blanched step in before you saute it.
Excellent.
Yes.
I personally prefer to go with Brussels sprouts. And
They're good too.
I add maple syrup and bacon. And it is amazing.
It's just a thing for conveying maple and bacon.
No, I actually do like Brussels sprouts.
Because this feels kind of like how popcorn, where if you add salt and butter to it, it tastes like salty butter.
No, you still get
Now
the
you're
nice.
not getting popcorn anymore. Now you're just using it as a vessel.
Right.
No, I actually do really enjoy Brussels sprouts, but I enjoy them even
Right.
more with maple and bacon.
Fair enough.
I suppose.
All right. Now, we do have an update to our podcast schedule. Last time I had said that we were going to be making a change. We'd have our episode today and then in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, life happened. So after tonight, we're actually going back to our regular schedule. Episode 110 will be next Saturday, December 14th. And the final episode of 2019 will be on December 28th. So you don't have to wait.
Most wonderful time. Sorry, what?
So yeah,
Come on, we were all thinking it.
no,
A little bit.
I was thinking least, but anyway.
Did you not notice the heavy sarcasm?
No,
my God.
sarcasm doesn't apparently go through Discord.
Moving on.
They've been having some issues, and I think that their sarcasm meters are broken. But yes,
So anyways,
moving on.
Long walk there, sir.
Amen.
Let's go ahead and jump into that game and community news. Now, the last episode, Taliz was not with us because he was somewhere else, and I told him that in order for him to come back, he had to tell us all about his time at KupoCon 2019. So Taliz,
I got to do fun shit.
because we're not fun. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Huh?
No,
That is
there's different
exactly
types
what
of
I was
fun.
trying to say. You should take it so personally, Klaus.
I love
do.
you both. Oh my god.
No, you made the right choice, but let's hear all about it.
So for anybody that hasn't heard me wax poetic about KupoCon, they do events all over the world. They do like 4 events a year. This one is the second event that they did in Vancouver, British Columbia. The one last year was called Pomtropolis. This one was called Port Pom. It was loosely Final Fantasy X themed. There was a Moonlight Masquerade evening event. Our guests were people who were relevant to what was going on in the Final Fantasy franchise at the time. A year and a half ago, we had Mr. Happy and Ray Chase were 2 of the guests that we had. I don't recall the third one, unfortunately. This time, we had John Bentley, Adam Croasdale, and Brianna White, who you might know as Barrett, Ignis, and Aerith.
Wow.
And they came and hung out. They did signings. They did autographs. Autographs were, I think they were like $10, $15. They were really cheap. But for KupoCon, it's called a convention kind of just for branding reasons. It is more of a fan event, and it is run like an event. When you get there, you go to opening ceremonies. There's no, I'm going to skip opening this year to do this other thing. It's, you go to opening ceremonies, everybody has a loot bag, the community managers come up and kind of tell you what's going on throughout the day. There's a schedule, and everything is set up to where you will be busy pretty much the entire time. But if there's a point where you're not super interested in what the main stage event is, you can step away, and that's a good time to trade cards or go through Oakas or go look at the artist alley area.
Did you make sure to give him 200 gil right away?
Fun fact, we are actually going to be doing a giveaway later today for 100 gil on the show.
Ooh.
So I will also open this up to people who are podcast listeners, because I know we have a lot of podcast listeners that aren't able to be with us on Saturdays. So look forward to that on Twitter. I do have 100 gil for you. The gil is set up from the Bank of Mog. They use different gil for every event. And so at the end of the event, the gil is pretty much just a collector's item. This was one that actually hung out in my wallet for most of the event, so it looks like a dollar bill at this point. It's a little beat up. My bad. Sorry. So after opening ceremonies, we were given our quest logs. Our quest logs have explanations for everything from the cosplay contests to how gil works to how the special guests worked. We used to have fates similar to how we have in 14. It plays the little chime at the beginning, and then we all had to do the fate. Well, Yoshi P got wind of it and didn't like it. So now they're just called 8s. They're called active time events, courtesy of Final Fantasy IX. And sometimes it's things like, we did the squat challenge last year from FF7. We had a bunch of them, which one was like, meet as many people as you can. One was exchange masquerade tokens with someone. The cosplay contest is, instead of having judges and well-qualified people and, oh, this person is biased towards whatever, everybody gets a masquerade token. And if you see somebody's cosplay that you like, whether it's a prop, a wig, an outfit, a character, somebody that was really cool, you hand them that. And at closing ceremonies, we say, okay, who was given a masquerade token, stand up. And then we apply to everybody that had an awesome cosplay. Okay, if you have more than 5, stay standing. More than 10, more than 20, more than 50. And
oh my gosh, did someone break 50?
I think we got 34 this year.
Dang.
33 and 34, which for an event that had like 800 people is a lot.
Yeah.
The event is designed to be intimate and inclusive and immersive. And so as a result, this doesn't work the same way as a big convention does, where there's tons of panels and viewing rooms and an artist alley and an exhibitor's hall and main events. Sometimes you need tickets, sometimes you don't, sometimes it closes, sometimes it doesn't. No, none of that. It's show up, have a blast, follow the schedule, go watch all the interviews on main stage, or go sit at tables and play Tri-Pom all day. For me, Tri-Pom is the legally distinctly different game from Triple Triad. which hilariously the main artist for actually ran a link shell that Seyrr was in once upon a time that I found out like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, she was the leader of my Dynamics link shell for, oh god, years. Oh god, I'm having Dynamics flashbacks.
All right.
But she was great. She was great.
Did she
So-
take away points if you were late?
No, but she would like make angry faces at you at flattering pictures.
That's actually worse. So
Yeah.
now
Sorry.
in the quest log, there's two things that you could do to earn gil. And instead of just having the shop where you use actual human Earth dollars to buy cards or t-shirts or merch, whatever, there's also gil that you earn by doing things like obtain one of each gil denomination, present 3 of the same Tripom card to the Bank of Mog, present an item to the Bank of Mog that came from another KupoCon event, post about your experience at KupoCon on social media, and then they will give you gil for it, and you use the gil to buy things that you can't get with money, whether it's full art prints of Tripom art, or I got a playmat to play Tripom on. It has some pretty cool squall art.
Oh, neat.
The other part is the hunts. Grab your camera. So the hunts start out with there's a character that you have to find. I'm just going to go ahead and very quickly read one. Let's see here. Seyrr, pick a character from Final Fantasy anywhere. 1 through
Bartz.
15. Bartz. I think
You
we actually
mean
have a Bartz in
butts?
here. Butts? Okay, I don't think we... Oh, we actually... Oh, they skipped Bartz.
In that
Actually,
case,
no, I have a better one. Justin,
Yeah.
pick a 7 character that you like.
Well, I like Vincent Valentine. He's my favorite.
Okay, Vincent Valentine, Final Fantasy VII. For 50 EXP, you get a photo with Vincent. Not too hard, pretty straightforward. For 100 EXP, you need a photo of Vincent sleeping. For 200 EXP, you need a photo of Vincent attacking a Turk. So you have the easy, medium, and hard, and the easy is always photo with blank. Photo with a Moogle, photo with Seyrr, photo with Prompto. The 200 EXP is a photo of Prompto taking a photo of Prompto.
nice.
Photo of a video of Van shouting about Captain Bosch. Photo of Aerith Sephiroth in that moment. Photo of Vincent attacking a Turk. Photo of Yuna performing half. Photo of Squall and Headmaster Sid. Yes, there was a Headmaster Sid, and the dude was busy all day. My sister cosplayed as Cindy. She was the only Cindy. The 200 EXP was a photo of Cindy working on a car. We had everything from Matchbox cars to you have to color in this page from a coloring book I bought from the drugstore across the street. I had her watching a Chris Fix video. She was busy all day.
Oh, wow.
So
And
kind of if you're someone who's gone as one of the less popular costumes, people may be very interested in getting you for those rare ones.
Because it's really hard. Things like photo of Balthier stealing. There were no Balthiers. There's a video of a character, Final Fantasy X, photo of a Guardian, photo of a character affected by Sin's toxin, or photo of a character saying, ride the shoe puff. The best one that I found was a photo with an Avalanche member, photo of a party of 3, or photo of a character with the matching Tripom card. My genius self saw a cloud right at the beginning, pulled the cloud out of my binder, ran over, asked for a selfie, took a picture, done. But then I thought, you know what would be super fun? To get a shitload of these, even if I can only turn it in once. Let's see how many I can get. So some of the Tripom cards aren't Final Fantasy characters. They're KupoCon staff.
Oh dear.
So I got KupoCon staff to do the selfies with their cards. And that's the one that I turned into the bank. So instead of turning in, here's a picture of Seyrr with a Seyrr or Cloud with a Cloud, it's here's Alan, here's Alex, here's Alex's wife, here's Nikki, the community manager. So that was an absolute blast.
Did you have security following you the entire time then?
No, actually. People knew me as the guy that played Tripom all day, and they knew my sister as the one that was Cindy. And then a friend of mine was a rockabilly-style dress, but she was a Moogle. So she was very busy most of the day as well. She had a big sign that said Safe Point. So we had an absolute blast with the quest log. The guests that we had, they did their interviews, they did their talking points. Adam Croasdale's was pretty straightforward. It was, hey, we just hit 3 years on Final Fantasy 15. How was the project? How was working with everybody? Did you get to play episode Ignis, etc.? And it was really fun talking to him. John and Brianna, on the other hand, had a really tough time because they were still covered under NDA, and Final Fantasy VII doesn't come out until March. So they're like, what was your favorite part? Meeting everyone. Can you tell us a story? No, I cannot.
I am legally obligated to say no.
And so like Brianna was just super lost. It was a blast though.
What's your favorite food? Hang on, I need to check if we can discuss that.
Yeah, you're just like, no, what you do is you say hot dogs that are shaped like melon bread and everybody laugh. Because translations, nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
Oh my god, no. You're done. You're done.
The evening event, everything closes at 6. Everything starts about 10, it closes at 6, kick everybody out for 2 hours, and then we come back for the evening. It's a masquerade, people dress up, there's masks, there's dancing. At one point, Alex came up, the dance floor was empty for 2 songs in a row. He said, okay, clearly you don't like the music, what do you want to listen to? And because we were all mostly white nerds, there was a lot of random YMCA dances, and the Macarena happened at one point. By the way, Emmett Selk doing the Macarena is the funniest shit I have ever seen in my entire life. It was amazing.
Video
Super
or
sweet
it didn't
girl.
happen?
I think we have video somewhere.
I'm sure you
Excellent.
do.
So that there was, however, a not fate at the very beginning of the masquerade where we cleared the dance floor and 3 people were selected and they all wore blindfolds. And the fate was called the Thunder Plains.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
So we put tissue paper all over the dance floor, and they had to get from one side of the dance floor to the other while everybody was shouting directions at them, and if they touched the tissue paper, they had to start over. And they had the little ticking sound effect playing the entire time. And there was a lot of shouting. They would send people back. At one point, the organizers were running around shoving them directly in front of people. And the foot was already in the air. It was complete and utter chaos and an absolute blast. My sister, who doesn't play 14 because she's in college and is focusing on that, she has narcolepsy. And at one point, just passed out, like you do. Well, a gentleman that we had just met downstairs who was there by himself, was buying an evening pass on the fly because he wanted to stay. Hi, Eden, if you're listening, by the way. Literally, we had never met this guy. He asked if he could hang out with us. We said, of course you can. He's out on the dance floor. He sees a gentleman, says, oh, my friend just passed out. I think she's okay. Her brothers stepped away. We're trying to find him. And this dude's like, oh my gosh, you cannot just, what? He stops dancing. He goes over. He's making sure. He's checking on her. He asked if he could pray over her at one point. Eden's running around all over the hotel trying to find me. He finds me and I get back to find this. And that person that we ended up finding was John Bentley.
Wow.
The voice of Barrett said, I am a guest. I'm here for work. He said, nope, not here for work. Here to check on somebody that I care about. They find me. He gave us all hugs. We took a ton of pictures. He gave us his contact information because he wanted to make sure that my sister was taken care of after we got back to the States, after the event was over. Dude is an absolute boss. So, conventions, if you need a really cool guest, John Bentley is... Hi, Super Sugar. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, John Bentley was absolutely outstanding and a total blast to hang out with.
Shout out to Barrett.
So yeah, shout outs to Barrett for being the best Avalanche leader. So at the end of the day, we have KupoCon. It's intimate, it's immersive, it's incredibly fun. That being said, there is no on this year, at this month, it will be. SoccerCon in Seattle happens on Easter weekend, so late March, early April, every single year at the convention center. Not that hard to track. KumoriCon is Portland. It's in October. Not that hard to track. And then you get KupoCon. It's in Vancouver in March 2018. and then it's in Vancouver in November of 2019, and then it's not coming to Vancouver again until 2021, but it's in Melbourne in 2020, and it's in like London or Glasgow in February.
This feels very involved.
It's all over the place. And as a result, you don't just get a convention that is in your city that does a certain thing every year. What you get is an event that is unique and different to every single one, to the point where the events aren't even called KupoCon. They are called Port Pom, Pomex, the Bigger Pom, the Wee Pom, Pom Saucer, Pomathon, Pomtropolis, Pomingham Palace, Pomtario, Mind the Pom, and the Big Pom. They're all Kupo themed, and they're all a blast. If you can get to one, go. If you can't, that's okay. Hang out with us online. We're having a great time. We have a FC on Moogle that is all KupoCon fans. You can find me there as Marvelous Tofu. But yeah, we're having a blast. But yeah, KupoCon was super fun. My only real cool claim to fame was that, one, my sister was Cindy in the room, and two, I taught a dude to play Tripom in the morning. He went and bought 3 packs of cards. I helped him build a deck, and he ended up winning the tournament.
Nice.
Wow.
So like, he literally learned to play. He played 9 games in his whole life, but he won just the right ones that he ended up winning the whole tournament. So it was an absolute joy to see a complete novice stomp all of us and have a blast doing it.
Very cool. So shout out to everybody who's putting on KupoCon across the world. I think there's like a few people that are kind of in charge of the overall thing, and then they have local people who do the events.
Yes and no. We have our community managers, Alex, Allen, and then Alex's wife, Natalie, is a big part of it. Nikki used to be a community manager. She's stepping down. She's going to be floor manager at Pomtario. And we're just having... I think their staff is like 10 people, but not everybody is active. One is their staff photographer. One wrote the novelization of Final Fantasy VII. One is Wave Chan, who's doing Tripom art. So the team is decent, but realistically, you only see 3 or 4 people at any given event.
That's a lot of work. So
It's a lot of work. Their
hats
volunteer
off.
list. Their volunteer list is decent, but they only need about 8 to 12 people to run any given event, because of how it's structured. And at the end, they give one staff award out. It's called the Warrior of Light Award. And it is always a very tearful, very big moment. It's the last thing that we do because everybody's just so full of emotion by the end of it. We are not going to get anything else done. This year, it was given for the very first time to a couple in lieu of a person. And it's everybody stand up. If you've been to more than one KupoCon, please remain standing. If you've traveled overseas to be here, please remain standing. If you've been to 5 KupoCons, please remain standing.
Dang.
And they were dressed as Riku and Waka. But you have to wear your staff t-shirt. So it's Riku, and she has the little tassel things hanging off of her back, but she's in the blue t-shirt with the little bug Yesh dude from FF10. And Waka's got the pants and the hair. But he still has the blue staff t-shirt. Absolute joy to be there. Yeah, KupoCon's a super fun time, and that is where I was 3 weeks ago. Gosh, has it been that long?
3 weeks.
Oof.
How time flies.
It's crazy.
But thank you so
much.
much.
And also, like, half the signs are written in Albed, by the way, just for fun. Just because, why the hell not?
Did you have to find primers across the entire event?
In 2018, they printed one in the quest log. And so when we started seeing stuff in Albed, all of us that were there last year crack the back, go to the back of the book and start flipping for the primer, and it's not there. And we were like, you guys suck. So then we had to find people that just had it memorized.
Which I'm sure there were.
Yes. There's a lot, actually.
Of course. Well, thank you for sharing your experience of KupoCon. If you guys are planning on going to Melbourne, let us know. We'd like to hear from it. Maybe you can tell us about it after the event happens in March. So, yeah, we appreciate you guys letting us know.
Yeah, KupoCon is, let's see, Melbourne is November of next year.
Oh, which one's the next one?
Glasgow, Scotland in February.
Okay, well, maybe we can hear from Paul or Chili on that one then.
Possibly. If anybody lives in Quebec, there's one in Montreal in April, and then Melbourne is in October, looks like.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Continuing on with more gaming community news, Seyrr brought this one up to me, and I'm going to have him talk a little bit more about it. Our friends over at A Stage Reborn are currently doing... is it in the audition phase right now, Seyrr?
Yeah, so it's not quite auditions, but yes, it's in the initial phase right now. They're doing a digital choir.
Yep, called A Stage Reborn Sings. And from their page... The goal of A Stage Reborn Sings is to give everyone the opportunity to learn, practice, and hone vocal performance skills in an accessible way. Individual and collective group talent will vary between cycles. However, overall lessons will include music theory, sight singing, and ear training, music history, and appreciation. Now, cycle's piece is going to be "Oh for the Wings of a Dove" by Felix Mendelssohn. And Seyrr, you said you were actually going out for it this year?
Yeah, so the description there I don't think quite explains everything. A Stage Reborn, as you know, they support a lot of stuff with digital arts. They do their stage performances. They do stuff with trying to put on various types of stage productions in other mediums. So you have like the Shakespeare play that they did recently, other stuff they've done. They're now trying to expand that to choral work. So they've got us people who applied, where we're going to be going through workshops, practicing and rehearsing together, and recording pieces that will be put together to actually make a choir production. And a lot of this is just kind of exploring these are ways for people to participate in the arts as enabled through gaming and through internet stuff.
Now, I read a little bit through that. Some of the things they're recommending people have things like Audacity. Now, are they going to be recording individual pieces and trying to piece it together digitally, or?
Yes, it does look like, so we are going to be doing practice together. We are going to stuff to develop voice parts and the like. And they did include stuff in there, like, for instance, software to help you with keeping proper tempo and timing for that. And then, yes, they'll actually be putting together all of the various voice recordings, layering those together into one thing to create a choir performance, even though the individuals aren't able to gather and perform at the same time.
Yeah, because one thing that I've noticed is, I don't know if you've ever heard me and Seyrr try and sing together. One of us is always ahead of the other because of digital lag. So having to actually try and get 50 voices together through like a Discord, yeah, that wouldn't be good.
I mean, you might have noticed when they added those performance features, one of the things they added was something to help groups sync up. And it is something where on your end, you'll be seeing different things, but the people who are listening to their performance will hear something slightly time delayed where are lined up together.
Yep.
And those are the types of things you start having to do just because of the nature of internet performances and having a lag between those spots.
Yeah, anybody who is... Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, exploring this idea of a digital choir, they're going to be messing around with a little bit. And one of the things that enables that, as opposed to having a physical choir where you're all standing together, is recording those pieces and combining them after the fact. Okay. It's an interesting approach to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Yeah, it does sound very interesting. I was just going to say, you know, anybody who has tuned in to us doing Twitch Sings here at Phoenix Down Radio, you'll know that I've had to do a lot of... changing of the timing, so like if I'm singing a duet with somebody else who pre-recorded theirs, that we all match up properly. So it's a very similar thing that they're going to be trying to do here, but on a much larger scale.
Mm-hmm. And it's something where they are not necessarily looking for people who have experience. It is something where there are going to be workshops, there is going to be training for that. So they encourage people to continue to apply because they're going to be doing multiple cycles for it. And if I ever wanted a chance to try out singing a bit as part of a choir, it's an exciting opportunity. Did
they say when they're actually going to try and have the performance ready by?
Not yet at this point. It's the stage that they're at, they've sent out notifications to people, and we are putting down our to figure out when we can do workshops.
Okay, sounds good. So it's still very much at the beginning of the cycle, so they may still be able to get in if you're interested?
Yeah, I would go ahead and apply either way. Even if you can't get in for this one, they're planning to do more. Expressing that interest, getting your name in there is the best way to get started on that.
And I went ahead and linked it in the Twitch chat, and we will also be putting in the show notes with the podcast. So if you are interested, You can go to astagereborn.com/choir. All right, getting into some Final Fantasy XIV news. The patch 5.1 special site has been updated with new images and info for patch 5.15, which is actually coming on Tuesday, December 10th. Maintenance.
Oh my gosh, I thought I had more time.
No time. Maintenance will be starting Monday, December 9th at 7 p.m. through 2 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Is it just me, or was the turnaround really, really fast?
No, it's about right, I think, for a 0.5 patch.
Part of it may be that we had that 0.1 patch in the middle.
Well,
Oh, okay, that's what I'm thinking.
we
But
had
just like the announcement versus the, hey, this is coming on the Monday night, Tuesday update, like, it feels faster than normal. But
yeah, we didn't get a much of a heads up this time, but I know that this is always a busy time for everybody, so.
True. They're also, I know that Japan specifically, I know the Shinjuku offices, they basically shut down for like most of December. So they're
Right.
probably trying to get everybody done and out the door.
Yep, so maybe that's why they just pushed it through. So some of the things we'll be getting with patch 5.15, Blue Mage, the level cap goes to 60, and they're adding in the new Blue Mage log, which looks to be giving us access to primals, raids, and alliance raids as Blue Mage. But
Yeah, it
as
looks to be
all Blue Mage.
It looks to be a kind of a special duty finder, so that blue mages, rather than having to hand for learning spells or other things like that, they'll be able to easily link up with other blue mages who want to do that.
And Super Sugar with the resub, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it, all you guys supporting the podcast like that. Sorry to interrupt. But are you guys going to be continuing on the Blue Mage path?
Well, mine's level 22, so I guess technically, yes, I could keep going.
Am I the only one who has it level 50?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I've
I
been
don't know.
busy.
Void Arc, Blue Mage, though, all the weird stuff that happens in Void Arc, that actually might be super fun.
There could be some really
Yeah.
cool things that happen. You know, we get access to all the Heavensward raids. Alexander, can you imagine all the blue mages taking on Jigglybutt?
Oh, God.
Why is that the first place you went?
I always go to the Jetman Megazord over there, and no. Seyrr, you're right. Why does he always do this?
I don't know.
Maybe it's
I feel
because-
like I don't want to know.
No, I think it's because Jigglybutt just destroyed so many statics. I want to see a group of blue mages just destroy Jigglybutt.
Oh, so you want to see them destroy a jiggly butt? Is that it?
Self-destruct.
That won't save you from this conversation.
Oh, damn it. All right.
Okay, the other things they're adding, Ansal Haker, which is the new PvP in the Azim Steppe. I don't know, is anybody going to give it a try?
I'll probably take a look. I've been more interested in the PvP lately.
It's fun, but just I log in, I do PvP for a couple of weeks, and then I just go, I would rather do progression or almost anything else. Just after the first few weeks of the new content, it just doesn't keep me.
Oh my god, Ian, Blue Mage Party Finder equals Blue Mage Tinder.
Yeah. Looking for a friend to learn water spells with.
I
Ugh.
what? No.
I don't fucking know, man.
Swipe right.
I'm gonna swipe left on
right
this
for Goblin Punch.
conversation. And they also posted a picture of a new mount. I don't know if you guys have seen this mount. It looks like
Yes.
a mechanical dwarf with a pickaxe.
I've got some like
And a
a little bit of
jetpack?
Megas XLR going on, and I'm really excited about it.
I heard comparisons to Iron Man as well.
Yeah, I want to know if we can color it. Somebody on Reddit was like, "Can I dye it? Because I want a Gundam." It's like, God damn it! But yeah, just it looks cool. But like, why does it have a pickaxe? Is it a gatherer's mount?
Yeah,
How would that even?
there is no clue at this point where it comes from.
I mean, if I had to guess, if you've taken a look at the various blacksmith craftable weapons. The dwarven mithril ones, the ones that are supposed to be the stuff that the dwarves make, like for instance, one of them, which is supposed to be a sword, looks like a pickaxe. For a lot of them, it's suggested that dwarven weaponry is drawn from these mining tools, stuff like that. So, given what we've already seen with the various iron amblers and the like, I would guess this is some kind of dwarf nonsense.
Probably, just
Yeah.
because of the fact that we have, like you said, like there's a warrior weapon that's just a hammer, right? It's an axe, but it's just a giant mallet. But
Yep.
when we first were getting the axes, if you look through the Limsa lore for Marauders, we had to use axes because we only had space for tools or weapons, but not both. So we found a tool that we could use as a weapon. And so I feel like there's also a reward system for like tanks and healers where white mages get unicorns, warriors get like werebears and stuff. Wouldn't it be cool if all the time, all the energy and the effort and the skill that crafters put into this game, giving them a mount that only they could get would actually be super, super cool.
Crafters
That
and
would be
gatherers.
Yeah, that would be a nice way to just be like, hey, we know that you've also put 19 days of playtime in the last 2 years. Here, have a mount. Because the white mage has one. The tanks have one. Like, wouldn't it be cool to just be like, if you spent the same amount of energy and effort, you should get something too. I would love to see that. Don't know if that's what we get, but I'm happy to have a robot mount no matter what, so I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the robot style mounts did come from PvP, but the fact that this one looks dwarven, I thought initially, is this one going to come from PvP? But it doesn't have enough of that Asm step flare, I would think.
Yeah. Like,
So,
It definitely
it
seems
loo-
like
it
something
looks
from the
like-
first.
yeah,
and having something
does.
crossover from the first would be a bit weird at this stage.
that is a valid point.
So we'll have to kind of see where it ends up coming from. Whenever we do discover what it is from, I'm going after it.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, but
Message
the only
me.
mount
We'll go
that-
together. It'll be great.
like the Amaurot mount, that's probably one that I will unfortunately never see, because I don't think I'll ever get all of my fighting classes up to 80.
Meh. Give it time.
We've had this discussion, Seyrr.
Meh.
Level 19 pugilist, level
Okay, at this
23
point, that's on-
thaumaturge.
At this point, that's on you.
No, I hate the jobs.
You barely even scratched the surface of them.
No, it's fine. I'm with him on this one. I've got like a level 7 archer, dude. Like, I'm right there with you.
You're talking to the bard main.
Yeah.
I don't do ranged
No,
well.
I know. Well, I have a hard time with machinist as well, so.
If you don't count Blue Mage, then my lowest job is 61, and that's Gunbreaker.
No, I'm
Which I
counting
think
blue
we'll work
mage.
on next.
I'm counting blue
Oh.
I'm
mage.
curious now. I don't remember what my lowest is. 6. My archer is 6.
Okay, well, fair enough. All right, so that's what we're getting in 5.15. But shortly after that, we're going to be getting a special 14-hour broadcast starting on Friday, December 13th. Ooh.
Ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
And they gave us the list of everything that's going to be going on. And the times listed here are going to be all Pacific Standard Time. So at 7 p.m. is going to be the introduction and opening remarks. They're going to do all the congratulations. They're going to show all the flowers and stuff from all the different other companies. You know, the standard how do you do stuff.
Yep.
At 8 p.m. on the second channel, they will be doing a Doman Mahjong first anniversary tournament. So this is going to be running concurrently to the main stream, but the finals will be aired on the main stream at 3 a.m. Pacific time. So this is
How
going to
did this happen?
So they're going to be
How
running.
did Mahjong become so big in this game?
They're going to be running from 8 p.m. to like 4 a.m. That's a
Okay.
long Mahjong tournament, or maybe that's just going to be one game.
Mahjong is not that slow.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
But the most important bit of the night is coming at 8:30 p.m., and that's going to be Live Letter 56. This is going to give us our first look at patch 5.2, as well as a question and answer segment with Soken, everybody's favorite Final Fantasy XIV music composer. and just awesome guy. Fucking Ace Token is
realistically,
amazing.
He's so good that like I'll put him next to Yasunori Mitsuda as far as level of quality of what he can produce. Easily.
Well, he's just so damn lovable.
Oh, he's hilarious. He has a blast doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. And he just loves interacting with everybody else in the game community too. I mean, seeing him at FanFest, and just,
oh god, yeah,
he is just the biggest ray of sunshine, isn't he?
He's so happy and he's always smiling, and it feels and looks and it's genuine because you can't fake that for as long as he has been doing it. He is
True.
genuinely excited to be doing what he's doing. The automaton that he played at FanFest, and then he put the thing on his head and played himself. Like, the dude's hysterical. Yep. He knows that everything is going to be tongue-in-cheek and hilarious anyway.
The box,
so he leans into it.
The box at FanFest 2016.
Yeah.
Jesus,
I'd almost blocked that out of my brain, but now it's back.
Basically, everything after that is kind of going to be just some random stuff. NGC's Final Fantasy XIV Season 5, where Yoshida takes on a special quest. A stroll with Yuichi Nakamura, the Japanese voice actor for Thancred, who will join Yoshida in-game, where they're going to take on some duties and visit player housing, most likely on Japanese servers.
Probably just for lag purposes, because the amount of crap you have to load, woof.
And then 6 a.m. will be the after party, kind of closing remarks, all that good stuff. And then before we get into talking with our guest, Justin, sorry, This is taking a while, Justin. you know how we do. This came out recently, I think mid of last week, and I figured it kind of fit in as a transition to our guest's topic tonight. The Final Fantasy VII Remake dev team introductions came out in a blog post on the Square Enix website. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to post that into the Twitch chat real quick. If you guys want to go ahead and read into that, I am going to go ahead and kind of just jump through some really interesting key bits of information that I was able to pick up from it, as well as kind of introduce who all of the people that they talked about are. The main producer of Final Fantasy VII Remake is, of course, Yoshinori Kitase. He basically had said, in the several years following 2009, when I was running around all over the world promoting Final Fantasy XIII, I had an opportunity to speak to many fans and journalists. The question I always got as we got to part ways was, when are you making Final Fantasy VII Remake? I'm sure he was getting sick of that, because he said he was at a point where it almost felt like an alternative way to say goodbye. So eventually I started preemptively giving my response to the question before they even asked it. If we were to create a remake of that now, it would be an enormous amount of data, and who knows how many years it would take. But if the right time comes along, we might just do it someday. This is how I like to respond back then. Who knows how many hundreds of times. And to all the people I had a chance to meet back then, the right time has finally arrived. So I thought that was kind of neat that he actually got to, do that, what everybody was asking for. And then, of course, Tetsuya Nomura, the director and concept design, talks about opportunities for discussing our true intentions are few, but with regard to the size of the game that many are asking about, there is no reason at all to worry. Even in this Midgard portion alone, the density and volume are so great that I had to give directions to lighten them. So there's going to be plenty of content to play in this first part of the game. With regard to new characters, though there aren't main characters, the number ended up growing considerably in the process, creating a rich depiction of Midgar. When you think of Midgar's final boss, you probably think of the Motor. But in this game, new bosses will appear and add to the excitement of the story even more. And for all of you out there wondering about the second part, we're already working on the next one as well. But I'm confident that playing through this title will expand your expectations, just like the world that extends beyond Midgar. I'm just happy to hear that they're actually working on them kind of continuously, so we hopefully won't have a huge wait in between part 1 and part 2. Because who knows how many parts we're actually going to get, right?
I think I heard rumor once upon a time, 1,000 lifetimes ago, that it was supposed to be like 3 parts.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're all assuming because the original PlayStation version was 3 discs.
Yeah, but disc 3 was what? The final boss fight, a store, and a save point?
Yeah, it was mainly Northern Cavern, but
Yeah, there was like nothing there.
But, you know, a lot of, like I said, because it was an open world in disc 2,
Fair.
there wasn't a lot of stuff they had to really load in. Maybe.
We only have 650 megs to play with. Yeah, you have to be really tight. But now we don't quite have that limitation.
No, but they're still looking at it's more than a Blu-ray.
Woof. So double disc or?
It sounds like it.
I mean, I get digital copies anyway, so like whatever. But
I got physical.
It's a lot of space. Yeah.
All right. Then they.
God damn it. Took me a minute.
Kazushige Nojima, the story and scenario. He talked about how he worked on it initially. Let's see. So he talks about in the original Final Fantasy, it used cartoon-like stylized art, and the story was completed by players using their imagination to supplement portions that couldn't be depicted. Even if they were seeing the same scene, the information they took away from it and how they interpreted it differed depending on the viewer. Perhaps it was what might be considered a narrative form of storytelling nowadays. But in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, there will be much less room for player imagination. This fact will probably change the feel of the story considerably. People who know the original might not know quite how to take it. Such is the fear that I have, but I also have a conviction. It should be possible to feel a much deeper connection to Cloud as you join alongside him. It would be amazing if you could feel that fiery flame together with him. So, because they're able to dig so much deeper within the game now, it's going to take away a lot of the guesswork, and people are going to have a more immersive storyline to play. I think that's what he's trying to get at.
Well, there's also the certain aspect that I studied Elizabethan Lit once upon a time, and it was we only get a window that we can see the story through. And no matter where we're standing, no matter what angle we're at, we can only see, even if we look as deep as we can only see what that window is going to show us. We're never going to see that whole world. Our imagination has to fill in the rest. And that was the case with a lot of, we were reading Shakespearean plays at the time. This is the bit of the story that you get. The things that you don't see, you have to figure out. You know that Falstaff has had a full life of drinking and being boisterous, but you don't get to see that. You only get to see the little bit that you know. And we have to fill in the rest of that life with our imagination. Depending on how detailed you need it to be, how much you fill in. But for 7, because we knew that Cloud is soldier, he is good, and therefore, or he's good at his job, so when you need to learn about materia, he's the one teaching the other characters. So you kind of got that he was skilled and knowledgeable, but that was all we got. We had to fill in everything else.
Yep.
We had to fill in the training and the other missions and everything else he did. Other than the cutscenes we got, we had to fill in those gaps. Now we might have access to more story, more depth. We find out more about Wedge and Biggs and Cloud talking on the train before they get there.
And don't forget Jesse.
Oh, Jesse's the best.
I don't know. I honestly feel that more information equals bigger window, and the more that they give, the more that people can take away from it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not going to feel like, wait a minute, you mean Cloud had problem initially learning fire materia? I always assumed he was a pro at it. I don't like this, you know?
No, that's a very astute example of like, well, now we have more information so we can expound on that, as opposed to we have to go with what we know, and what we know is Cloud is soldier, move forward. Well, okay, great. That doesn't tell us anything. Now we go, Cloud is soldier, hurt his knee on week 2, is bad at fire materia, hit himself in the wrist with the sword once. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that makes it interesting. Let's give him some faults. That'd be sweet.
And just in general, there's a lot more opportunities to give like a lot of those little moments for characterization, for interaction, having the character models be a lot more expressive. I know it's been talked about, like, for instance, in FF14, the North American community doesn't like to be spoon-fed information as often in terms of plot stuff. They like to have things hinted at and suggested, and to try to work out those details on their own. And this is another opportunity for that, where instead of saying, oh, this character likes this one as a thing said by an NPC, express it through how they look at each other, little hesitations in the conversation, stuff like that. It's something that makes it feel a lot more like an actual world and an actual people in the story.
Yep. And we can't get more discussion on that with the other directors. But Naoki Hamaguchi, who's the co-director of game design and programming, talks about in Final Fantasy VII Remake, he takes on the challenge of creating something that's created specifically thanks to the technological power and entertainment quality that catches the current generation, while treating the captivating elements of the original game with respect. Basically, for those who have played the game, it'll be new but familiar. And for those who haven't played it, they're going to get to experience the charm of Final Fantasy VII, which moved the hearts of many, now created with the most exciting modern technology available. So they're really trying to take full advantage of the PS4 and then eventually the PC as well, while being able to tell us this story. Motomu Toriyama is the co-director and scenario designer. Talks about increasing the realism of the universe within the city of Midgar, which is made prosperous by Mako Energy. We, of course, also reimagine the characters who reside there, like Cloud and Tifa, more vividly as living and breathing human beings, depicting their daily lives and feelings in a more in-depth manner. So we're gonna really get to feel how alive Midgar is. It didn't seem very alive in the original game, did it?
It felt like I've had this actually just came up in discussion a little while ago about RPG locations like villages, where it doesn't feel like a place where people actually live. It feels like a stage upon which we're going to see this scene.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I understand that the technology kind of prohibited us from making it feel like a bustling metropolis, but
you end up with the Pallet Town problem, where there's 7 people and 2 houses in a lab.
Right.
And like Professor Oak doesn't know his grandkid's name. Like, come on, dude. Like, that's not really a city where people live. That's not going to work. But having, this is where the slums are. This is a house. I want to walk past and see an NPC hanging laundry on their balcony. Yep. Like, I want to see weird shit that makes the city look huge and alive.
And we're going to get that
now. It's going to be fun.
And
that'll be so good.
And I feel like if you have the technology to offer it, it's fine. But I was one of those people who were playing the game, and the imagination filled in the holes for me. I would say, "Oh, he doesn't remember his kid," and then they're like, "Well, maybe he's suffering from some sort of Alzheimer's." I would fill it in for them, but it'd be nice for them to be much more detailed.
Yeah. Now, this little bit of information from Toriyama-san was kind of interesting. When reimagining the Honeybee Inn at the Wall Market, we revived it as a pantheon of entertainment, which couldn't be realized back in the original. Here, the scene that many of you have been eager to see, where Cloud disguises himself. Now,
oh Lord,
who wants to see that in high def?
That I'm guessing we've all seen the meme where Cloud is like sitting on the couch with all the other wrestlers behind him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much realism. No.
Shintaro Takai, who's the graphics and VFX director, says among the many major games that are celebrated for their photorealistic graphics, Final Fantasy VII is a little different. Not only is it realistic, but I believe you'll notice that it incorporates playfulness in the design and colors for an originality not found in other games. Effects are an area that is particularly conducive to expressing various elements of playfulness. So they're going to try and mix a little bit of magic in there to kind of give it a different vibrance, which will be kind of nice to see. Taruki Endo, who's the battle director, says, in order to create battles that are surprising and never boring, we worked hard to create a variety of strategic elements for each boss and enemy. Also, in constructing battle systems for each character, we wanted to respect the image of the original version while additionally introducing many new abilities. I hope you're able to find your own style of battle by combining those abilities with materia. So, from what I'm reading so far, they're really, really having a great time reimagining Final Fantasy VII with different styles and incorporating all the new technology. Takako Miyake, who is the environment director, says in order to create a fitting backdrop for the drama unfolding around the main characters, and in order for it to be a stage where the various characters living in Midgar can be their vibrant selves, all of the teams, including the environment section, came up with the ideas and worked collaboratively. Midgar is a closed city. However, I would be very happy if by experiencing the drama unfolding around its residents and the main characters who got through it, you feel as though Midgar actually exists. So I'm really excited to see what the city looks like with everything they're saying.
They based it off of Tokyo, or at least that was their public opinion originally. So it'd be
What part of Tokyo?
All of it.
Okay, I lived there, so I'm like, what part of Tokyo? 'Cause it's very
Right,
different.
no, they specified that. I think Midgar, at least the upper sectors, were supposed to represent all of the districts that was Tokyo to kind of give an idea of population.
Okay, interesting.
Wow, that many million people, huh?
14 million people. It's just like, because I know that like Ota City is completely different than Shinjuku, is completely different than Shibuya, is not even close to what Ikebukuro looks like.
But I mean, Sector 1 is different from Sector 3, is different from Sector 7.
Yeah, like it'll be interesting, but it's like playing, God, what was it? World Ends With You, where like you're in Shibuya and then you go to Shibuya in real life. You're like, this is a little different, but not that different. So it'll be interesting to see what the remake looks like compared to like, this was what our inspiration was. This is what it looks like.
All right, there's just 3 more to introduce and talk about real quick. Iichiro Yamaguchi, who's the lighting director. He says the positions of the few lights that illuminate the entirety of Midgar, the adjustments made to each and every voluminous cutscene. It's all a lot of work to do. However, alongside the rest of the wonderful lighting team, we feel that we've brought something great to the table. We've left in the elements that will have you going, that's what it's like. And yet you'll still be able to enjoy the world of Final Fantasy VII in its new and fresh style. I wonder if they're able to introduce any kind of ray tracing. Or maybe that'll come in, like, I wonder if they'll be able to introduce it with the PC version, potentially. So if they've thought of it.
I'm just kind of interested why they don't. Is the PC version coming out in March, or is that coming out later?
No, that's going to be later, and I'm assuming probably later in late part of 2020 would be my guess. There's not been an official announcement date. It has been announced, but
Interesting.
But I'm like I said, they do no ray tracing. I know Square Enix had it in Shadow the Tomb Raider, I believe. Whatever the last Tomb Raider one was, either Shadow or Rise. I think it was Shadow.
I think it was Shadow, yeah.
That had ray tracing, or was it DLSS? No, it had ray tracing. It was Final Fantasy 15 that had DLSS.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Masaaki Kazeno, the character modeling director, says, I've ensured to arrange things like hairstyles and outfits to recreate the design from the original. So I encourage anyone to take time with their camera angles when playing to take a look. Also, there are several characters that stand out other than just the main characters that you'll find. So please see for yourself as to what kind of appearances and characteristics they have. Other than that, we've got enemies in there perhaps too close to the original, and there are many surprises coming in the remake for you to all look forward to. Yeah, the design of the characters has been amazing in all the screenshots that I've seen so far.
I love seeing the pictures of like, this is what Cloud's hair looks like. This is what Tifa's fabric on her dress or on her gloves looks like. This is what Barrett's skin looks like when he's flexing.
I mean,
it's super detailed.
It's amazing. It's fabulous.
I can't wait.
Yeah. And Yoshiyuki Soma, the animation director, says, for the animations, each and every member of the team, from those responsible to battles, fields, simple events, cutscenes, minigames, facial expressions, to swinging things in the background, actual behavior settings, have all worked together to improve as one. We've done our best to ensure that whatever you do, it feels like the characters are alive there with you. So this sounds like a team who has worked really hard to try and recreate one of everybody's favorite Final Fantasy games out there and do it with the proper respect that it's due. So on March 3rd, 2020, you know my ass is going to be sitting here streaming that for you guys.
Have fun. I probably won't get
I'll
to
appreciate it.
I won't get to play it probably, but
Justin,
I'll have to wait.
Do you have it pre-ordered?
No, I'm poor.
Fair enough.
We got a GoFundMe for Justin getting a copy of the 7
Right? I mean,
right next to me getting a bag of Cheetos.
I mean, I feel like we can get both of those concurrently if we.
yeah, I suppose we can, if we get a couple extra bucks on top of it, we can get you some Cheetos.
All right, cool.
Do you have a PS4?
I don't. What I was going to do is whenever it released, I was going to go to a local game store in Medford who recently started the whole rent out a system and TV and game for, I don't know, it was like $10 for 5 hours kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So maybe just try.
Like a plan trade or something like that.
Well, I mean, like a sit down and start the timer and
an esports kind of thing.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, so
That
I was
sounds
going to do
cool.
that.
Game cafe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
Yeah, it was original, just like an RPG kind of like come in and play your D&D, but then he expanded, so that's probably what I'll do.
Okay. Well,
Nice.
I'm hoping that you get a chance to do that and enjoy that. Now that we've gotten through that, let's segue into some more Final Fantasy VII talk by reintroducing our special guest, Justin Blasdel.
Yes, you said it correctly. Thank you.
Woo!
Who approached me on through the Facebook, the Phoenix Down Radio Facebook group or a Facebook page, and he's like, "Hey, I created this thing. Are you interested?" So he and I talked for a little bit, and he sent me a link to a PDF of a book that he created. I'm gonna copy and paste that into the Twitch chat. Again, this will also be in the show notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is to a 218-page PDF titled Final Fantasy VII Old World of Darkness. Now, those of you who might be familiar with Old World of Darkness, or maybe know it as World of Darkness or the White Wolf system, this is based off of White Wolf Publishing's D10-based tabletop gaming system. If you've ever played Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Mage the Ascension, there are a few other ones as well. It is a very simple but interesting system that you can use to create and play different scenarios based off of these supernatural creatures. Now, Justin, what got you interested in taking this system and turning it into making a scenario for Final Fantasy VII?
Well, it's been something that I've been working on for a while.
Okay, first off, how long is a while?
I think I made a prototype of it and shared it online maybe about 5 years ago. It was
Wow.
what happened was I was as a storyteller for any kind of system, you're always trying to rethink ways of, what can I do for this? What happens if this happens? What can I do with this system? And it never really stops as a storyteller, because you're wanting to provide more options for your players and just kind of really surprise them, especially the munchkins who think they know it all. Yeah. And I think what really started getting me to think about the connection between Old World of Darkness and Final Fantasy VII was Demon the Fallen, and how that their transformative process kind of lines up with Vincent Valentine's ability to transform in Dirge of Cerberus. And I was kind of making that connection of, the characters in Demon the Fallen, they're human until they need to do something magical or defend themselves or attack, and then suddenly, poof, they're a magical existential creature of either beauty or horror based on how much torment they have, which is one of the game mechanics of figuring out how evil you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was playing Dirge of Cerberus, it seemed very similar, that Vincent was kind of doing the same thing. And mechanically, it's like, I was wondering how I could make that possible. And I started off with the thing that I put online was, how could I express that mechanically in Old World of Darkness? And I really didn't build on anything other than that. I just kind of made that possible, gave it to the world, and said, do what you want with it. And of course, no one did anything with it and went nowhere. But I felt like I could always do more with it. It felt like an incomplete idea, and I don't like to leave my good ideas incomplete. So, yeah, recently I went back to it, reread it, and I thought to myself, if I put the effort into it, it's going to be a lot of effort. But if I put the effort into it, I can make a full, complete book out of this and give something back to the world where not only does it give a different perspective on Final Fantasy VII, but it also brings back the old world of darkness into the limelight. And the reason why I keep saying old world of darkness, people might not know, is because White Wolf kept revising the system, which is fair. You're always trying to improve the old product, but
look at D&D.
Right. But what happened is when they switched from their old world of darkness to the new world of darkness, the system was cleaner, but the storyline a lot of people did not like, because the old world of darkness, it was evil and cruel and dark and very I'm trying to think of the word, but I'm scheming all the time. I'm plotting all the time, even against my fellow people, and trying to get up on top. And it kind of got represented in the second version, but it felt like a restricted version, and it was off-putting. A lot of people didn't like it. I personally did not care for it, and it destroyed a lot of the customer base for that. And I know they're coming out with a new version right now, and I would have considered buying it, but the core book for Vampire the Masquerade, the recent one, is $150. So yeah, I had to. As soon as I saw that price tag, everyone in the store could hear me go, "Woo! Woo! No!" And I carefully put the book back on the shelf.
Yeah, anybody who plays a tabletop RPG knows that the core books can get very expensive.
Yeah, but it was I saw a connection between the two, and I honestly said, I can make this possible, and I decided to go with it.
So, did you have a lot of experience playing the original World of Darkness games?
I did. I started when I was 17. I was in high school. It was my introduction into tabletop role-playing, and I can't even remember the game itself, but it was Vampire the Dark Ages, which was kind of the same line as Masquerade, but in the Dark Ages, which honestly gives it a little bit more imagination, things to mess around with.
Yeah, old school vampire type of things versus the bright sparkly ones like we see in certain movies which shall not be named.
Yeah. But yeah, and I fell in love with it. I was always an imaginative person, and I liked the idea of, like, wait a minute, you mean I can play imagination time with my friends, and it's not, oh my god, he's being weird. Let's collectively add into this and make it really cool. And I just kept buying the books because I didn't tell you this, but I'm originally from Arkansas, and while Arkansas is a pretty awesome state, I love it. We don't have as much of a population, so whenever you become the weird person who likes this one single thing, it's harder to find all the other weird people who also have the same timetable as you. So I just kept buying the books, reading them, and just enjoying them more as books on the shelf that I can occasionally pull down and think of neat ideas from.
Okay.
So I've been really, really into the old world darkness for quite a while, and the only time I really stopped was I think when it was taken, or the responsibility of producing the books was taken over by Onyx Publishing, which they're doing a really good job, but at that point, I was like, if I couldn't go to a store and buy the books anymore, it felt a little distant to me. And I also started getting very poor at that time. So
I hear you. I mean, I remember back when I was in college, I used to go to the bookstore, and I would see when they would get in the new books. I would love to hang out in the role-playing section and see what new White Wolf Publishing books were available, and peruse through them and see if it was something that would add to my collection as well. I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you when in our earlier discussions, but back probably it must have been like the early 2000s. I was pretty big into Werewolf, and I ended up building up quite extensive collection of source material for the Werewolf game, and I think I have about almost 30 books back there.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand, it was a very interesting system. A lot of my friends were playing D&D, and I was in a couple of AD&D campaigns through those days, but we also would hold vampire or werewolf. We actually did a couple of campaigns where it kind of mixed the games together, that was a great thing about that system. You didn't have to just play as werewolves or vampires or mages or whatever. You could actually interact together and bring this, and the systems were designed to work together.
Not perfectly, but they were.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there were little quirks to it, but I mean, for the most part, a good DM could easily make it work.
Right.
And we would do that, and it was so fun messing with it. I remember we one of the campaigns we ran, it's just because I want to talk about how fun the game system actually is, and then we can get into how it works with Final Fantasy story. We took a bunch of vampires, and my character was working with them as kind of like a guide or something like that. Little did they know I wasn't a vampire. I was actually a were-coyote or a Nuisha, and I was just absolutely fucking with them. And it was just so much fun. I never had more fun just screwing around with my friends, and they didn't even know it.
Right.
The game master we had for that, he came up with the idea, and he was like, dude, you want to just mess with these guys? And I'm like, hell yeah. So, and that really got me, hooked on that game system. And it's like, so, I mean, when you approached me about this, I was like, damn, I get to talk about a system that I haven't played in 15 years, but remember playing so well. I'm in.
Yeah.
So, before we get more into the Final Fantasy aspect of it, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Like, what types of things that you do, what got you interested in, writing all of these games, and have you done anything else like that?
Well, I guess I'll go through the kind of resume thing, which is I'm a master's playwright from the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville.
Nice.
So I've been writing for quite a while, and if you were to look my name up on smashwords.com, I put all my plays on there, as well as some children's books that I've written, and more recently I made 2 newer game systems. One which I've been working on for a while, which is Drawn to Action, which is kind of like an easy one-shot system for playing in the cartoon world, and I kind of advertise that as, hey, you got 15 minutes to an hour before the final person comes over, why don't you play one of these to get all the shits and giggles out of everyone, and so you can do something serious when you're ready. I also created a game system called Romance, which is an additive to any system. It's supposed to help you record love relationships between PCs, and more importantly NPCs. And I gave a mechanic to, if you're wanting to start a relationship with someone, this is level 1 relationship. Oh, you want to increase it? Well, this is how you do it. Oh, you're trying to get that person's attention more than someone else's. They also have their own relationship status, and now you're trying to roll against each other to see who is going to get the love of their life, kind of thing. And it's a lot of fun, and the scenario I put in the back of it was kind of like a reality TV dating show where it's like, ooh, everyone gets to be as catty as possible, and I've story told that for a little bit, and it was a lot of fun.
I'm surprised that something like that wasn't bought up. Because I can see, I know there's been a lot of game sessions where you end up seeing people, trying to, stupidly do stuff like that, with other characters or try to romance the NPCs. But to sometimes interestingly catastrophic ends. But adding that into a game system would actually be really kind of cool. And I'm glad that you were able to come up with something like that. I'm surprised more haven't done it.
I did it because my partner Rachel, she's into gaming, but she gets kind of tired that it's always adventure kill 'em all styles, and I was trying to think of a game system where fighting wasn't the focus, and that was my best answer for her.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's something that it's a part of real life, and people maybe want to go through those types of things within a role-playing game, and because they might be too shy to actually do something about it in real life, but if they were to role play it, it might give them a little more confidence in what they need to do. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was kind of an awkward geek growing up.
No,
I'm still an awkward geek.
No.
But no, I think that's really interesting. And in our talking, you also talked about a fanfic Soul Reaver game that you worked on.
Yes, that was I want to say 3 years ago. I used the program RPG Maker VX Ace, which is a software that where you can go in and through helped scripting, you can create your own kind of turntable-based video game. And now they've come out with a newer version that helps you create your own sprites, so you don't even really have to be too much of an artist in order to create your own little characters walking around. But yeah, the idea is I want to have this character go through this quest and blah 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 blah, and I applied that to the Legacy of Kain game series. And if you're a Legacy of Kain fan, you are a fanatic. There's no, oh, I kind of like the games. It's like, no, you love them and you hate them at the same time. And we have a pretty strong Facebook group, where we're all diehard fans. And I decided that I would use that system to create a prequel to the arguably the most popular one, which was Soul Reaver, which was one of PlayStation 1's breakout games. It was the 3D environment puzzle solver thing where you could still fight, but it was as simple as hit the vampire with the one action move, and then when they're kind of knocked out, impale them. But it was still revolutionary at the time, and my game was a prequel to that because, again, I'm not sure how familiar you're all with the game system, but the original Soul Reaver opens up where the creator of all the vampires, Kain, gets mad that one of his generals starts mutating cool wings, so he gets them thrown into this watery abyss. And my game was right after that. I played this thing where all the generals were kind of making bets as to how many of their dead generals' vampire kids they were going to kill. And you played the youngest general, and of course you're like, I'll kill the most! And they all laugh at you. And the game gives you a based on easy, medium, or hard, how much time you're going to do it. And I made it where there was like 9 different endings to it, and scripting's hard.
That sounds pretty interesting, though. I mean, using a game and creating that many endings, I'm surprised. I know nowadays there are a lot of games that have a lot of different endings like that. I mean, just look at Nier Automata. How many endings are on that game? Like 20 something.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular one, but I'll tell you, you have to have an amazing amount of patience to be able to deal with it, because it's a revolutionary idea. And what's cool about RPG Maker is if you make your own game, you can sell it, and a lot of people sell their games through that program on Steam.
Okay.
So as long as you're not like marketing the images within the game, you're just marketing your game. It's a free open license kind of.
Interesting.
But yeah, it was. Of course, I can't get any profit from that game that I made because it's technically fan fiction, and I had to. Once you beat the game in any of the endings, you get like a 5-page long internet listing of all the resources I have, and I think at one point I'm like, oh, and this is from such and such company. Please don't sue me.
But I guess it's an interesting way to use your creative talents to make something interesting, kind of like this Final Fantasy VII book that you did. I want to start with the history of the world. Well, it's a great place to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
History is.
Now, everybody who's played Final Fantasy VII is familiar. The world initially was just called the planets, but they kind of added in at a later date that the planet was actually called Gaia. Now, in your game, you're playing on Gaia, but it wasn't originally Gaia.
Right, because I had to make a transition between the main plot line of Old World of Darkness to Final Fantasy VII. And what is surprising about Old World of Darkness is before they dropped it, they ended it. Because that was kind of the running theme, was one day there's going to be an apocalypse and everyone's going to die. And what I decided was, okay, well, that happened, but not everyone died. It just, everyone got to the point where it's like, oh my god, we're, as a human species, almost extinct. And then gradually, as the world started to kind of heal itself, people came back, and of course, whenever you have a resurgence of a population, everything gets renamed. And one of the renamings was Gaia.
And basically, throughout this new post-apocalyptic history, the world kind of built itself to form what we know of as the Gaia from Final Fantasy VII.
Right, and human population started popping up in little concentrated areas, and I wrote in that the most successful one was Midgar, which according to my book, originally started as a secret military base where whenever the apocalypse came, it was self-sustaining and it was super secret. So no one knew where it was. No one knew to search for it for resources to destroy it. It could pretty much just bunker down and ride it out. And that's exactly what happened. And because it was... even though it was a military base, humanity has to thrive again, and humanity has to have cities. So as they started to repopulate themselves, they started bringing in survivors from other areas, and above ground they started to grow, which is what eventually became the ground base for the slums in Midgar.
Okay. Now, getting into kind of some of the gameplay out of this, like I said, it uses White Wolf's D10 system.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're fighting or when you're playing the game, are you basically, can you choose which faction you want to be a part of? I mean, do you have to be like Avalanche, or can you be a soldier? Can you be a Turk? Can you be just a regular person selling flowers?
You can, because within the book it's that I provided, I did give like, hey, these are the stats for humans, and this is the stat for soldiers, and you can go in as a human. In fact, I suggest it because I had to kind of dig a little deep in this, specifically through I believe it was Crisis Core. But there are military fractions that don't have an unusual connection to makeup. Sorry, my phone's telling me. Okay, no, I can snooze more. Okay.
It's wake up time? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
At one point. I have a night job, and so this was my first alarm to where it's like, hey, you don't have to wake up yet, but, kind of get ready for it. So it might go off in another half an hour.
Okay.
But yeah, you can start off as a human, as a like a city troop or infantry, and if once you build up from that and kind of adjust yourself to the old world darkness system, you can choose to be a soldier, in which you get the ability to hold Mako, which is what powers your unusual abilities, your materia, your limit breakers, and from there you can choose to be a Turk, or you can stay as a soldier and just kind of climb up the military ranks, or once you get really familiar with the system, you can become a part of Deep Ground, which is based off my original attempt at linking Vincent Valentine into the old world of darkness, where it's like a very experimental thing and very much based off of Dirge of Cerberus game, where you have an alternate form.
Okay.
And this is done through Mako, genetic remodification, of course, led by Dr. Hojo and the other ones, and it's pretty cool. You get to be this very strong, powerful creature, but also you can kind of lose your mind while doing it. So it's not the easiest thing or the safest thing, but it is the coolest thing. And if you can build up to it, it would be pretty neat.
Okay. And then as far as where you would play this, I mean, I've seen a lot of this stems around Midgar. Are there plans to expand, to other areas of Gaia, to check out other places within the world and maybe do scenarios there?
Definitely. I mean, Midgar is kind of a start off, and there's a lot of storylines that you can do with that, but honestly, you're probably going to get the most action with away missions, and I given a sample game, a starter game in there, and that's one of the missions is because to give a little bit more back history on Midgar, when Midgar became super powerful, President Shinra, he decides, you know what, we have the ability to make more power than what we need, and then we can sell that to other communities. And if they don't like us, we'll destroy them because they're obviously being tainted by the evil supernaturals that exist out there. So they expanded, they destroyed cities. Of course, the Watani, was one of their the few cities that was like, no, go away, we're good without you. And of course they got beat into submission. And yeah, there are territories out there, and the sample game that I gave was when I think 2 soldiers. I can't remember if I gave soldiers examples or not. But anyways, it's one of our little towns hasn't connected back with Midgar. You need to go in there and make sure that everyone isn't dead, kind of thing. And when you go there, obviously you find out that, oh my God, there's no one here. What the hell happened? And it was a vampire infestation that you have to solve.
Okay.
I imagine when I was creating this game, I imagined that Midgar would be more traditionally Final Fantasy VII, but the surrounding area or the world of Gaia would be something more visually similar to what you see in the Vampire Hunter D movies.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through the book, looking at. I'm like jumping into the combat system. A lot of just reading through this is, reminding me of all the steps we had to go through. You had to go through your, set up your initiative, and then actually make your attacks, and then resolving. It was a very long, but it ended up being an interesting working system. Like I said, for those of you who aren't familiar with how the D10 system works, when you create your characters, you get to allocate points into your skills. And then depending on the type of action you're going to be performing, you get to use those skills to either perform or fail at the action. And then you get so many dice based off of the number of points you have in those attributes. For instance, if you wanted to pick a lock, you would have to use like a dexterity and maybe a lock picking skill. You would roll however many dice, and depending on like the type of lock it is, from a simple lock to a more complex padlock, you would have to roll a certain number, and if you would roll that number or above, that would be considered a success. And if you get enough successes, you actually perform the action. So it's similar yet a little bit different to how like the D20 system works or your standard D&D. But
Right.
I like it because it uses just one type of dice.
Right, and in the book, I'm very aware that a lot of Final Fantasy VII game players have no idea what tabletop role playing is. I mean, I assume that a lot.
I would. There's a lot more people who've played some sort of tabletop. Not everybody likes it, but I mean, people are very familiar with Dungeons and Dragons.
Right, yeah.
Now they are. Now they are. A couple years ago, not so much.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, dude, I was trying to play 11. I was trying to explain FFRPG to somebody, and they were like, "Why would you use dice? How do you win?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like they literally had no idea. And this person was like, had been playing 11 for years. So it's kind of a different caliber of player. There's a lot of overlap. There's definitely a different caliber of player that plays tabletop versus MMO.
Yeah, maybe.
Right. And I have my own introduction to helping the reader understand this world because, like a lot of the Old World of Darkness books, they didn't assume that everyone knew gaming as well, especially since it was so long ago and it wasn't as popular. So I do kind of help people understand the concept, and a lot of those techniques I did borrow from Vampire the Masquerade directly, but I didn't want to make this only for the people who knew what gaming was. I was like, no, let's make it for everyone.
No, absolutely. I really think, opening it up to as many people as possible is definitely a great way to do it. And for those who are just getting into a tabletop game, a D10 system is actually pretty nice to work with. You don't have to have tons of different styles of dice. Just have a bunch of D10s and your character sheet, some paper, maybe some snacks, some Mountain Dew. You're set for a night.
A good DM or ST.
Yep, storyteller, game master, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
Have you actually been able to get people around you to play a game?
No, and
Sorry.
I'm experiencing a little bit the same in Oregon that I did in Arkansas, which is, the more eclectic you become, the harder it is to get people to like the exact same things you do, who have the same time slots in their life to share those things with you. And I made the decision of sharing it before I was able to play it because it would have been beneficial, I know, to have people play it. But then I was like, you know what, I could be waiting up for half a year before this happens. And I thought, I'll go through it as well as I can and share it. And if people come back and say, this was a broken system, then that's what happened.
And, well, systems can be changed.
Yeah.
Now, Seyrr, you pass this on to a friend of the show, Safe, right?
God, there we go. Yes, I did.
Seyrr, you alive?
Barely.
Oh, but so has he?
Yeah.
What has he said so far?
So yes, I did share it with him since I know he was a lot more the World of Darkness setting. It's one that I knew a tiny bit of. I've never actually played anything on it. He did say that, let me see, I had some notes on it. It is clear that there's a lot of time and effort put into it. He made a guess that it was at least 300 hours worth of work, which from what you said sounds pretty accurate.
So, any idea how much time you actually spent on it, Justin?
I did spend quite a month. I have a night job that I'm able to kind of, go back and forth. And it's, I work at a drug rehabilitation clinic, and I'm responsible for making sure that everyone's fine. But if everyone's fine, I'm pretty much sitting down in one spot, so I have to keep myself busy.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it was a lot of work, man. I'd say probably the majority of the work came from figuring out from what different books within Old World of Darkness. I was going to borrow this from, borrow that from, and put it all together to where it was functional. But yeah,
Right.
it was core. It was, I want to say, over 2 months, possibly 3 months of just doing no other creative project and just zeroing in on this.
So yeah, definitely. And he said that was something where it definitely showed that there's a lot of work and effort put into it. That it's clear that you have a big love of Final Fantasy VII and of World of Darkness, and that really comes through.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's see. Mentioned that you clearly fear neither God nor copyright. Mostly he was a little concerned that White Wolf has occasionally been aggressive about enforcing their copyright. So of course, do be careful about that.
Yeah, are we going to talk about that, or are we going to keep going and then come back?
We'll keep going. I'm just going over the notes we have from our discussion. Though if there is something... Actually, no, if you do have thoughts or comments on it, I would love to hear what you think.
Okay, well, I'll get into that topic right now.
Sure.
Yeah, it might come down all on my head.
We certainly hope not.
Right. It's because old White Wolf can be litigious when it chooses to be. Because I think at one point, I'm trying to remember the movie. Oh, it was vampires and werewolves, and there was a weird genetic crossover, and it was
Underworld?
like Underworld, yeah.
Yep.
Underworld and White Wolf was in a court. There was a lawsuit from White Wolf because the storyline was incredibly similar to one of their approved fiction works based off their game system. So not only do they have game systems, but they allow people to write novels so that they can reference it within their books. And the lawsuit was thrown out, but I know that they can be pretty litigious. But on the other hand, if you love Old World of Darkness and you're curious about it, someone made a system to play Highlander.
Huh.
So yeah, you can play as a character from Highlander. And when I looked for it again recently, they still have their website up, Highlander the Gathering. This is White Wolf, this is, Highlander. We'd have no rights to any of this. And the way that they protected themselves is not only just coming right out and saying this is not ours legally, but they also only provided the rule set for playing Highlander. It's kind of like saying, well, if you have the Vampire the Masquerade book and you know it very well, here's an add-on system to it.
Right.
I mean, and they've been around for years, so much so that the email addresses on the original webpage don't even exist anymore. Right. And so
ancient internet.
But just remember, there can be only one.
Right. Yeah, and that was kind of a joke that we kept telling each other. But what so what I learned from the Highlander way of doing things is I came out and said, look, I don't own this. I took this from there. I took this from there. And if you like this book, please go to that, White Wolf Company and buy their books. Please spend money on them through this. And I did that with Final Fantasy VII as well, or Square Enix, saying, please let this be a gateway from your wallet into their company.
Yeah.
And I'm, as with all fan fiction, because I really had to look this up, especially whenever I did my Legacy of Kain PC thing, is all fan fiction, unless satirical, is against the law. But typically, companies don't sue if it's within the spirit of the original product and if it helps them gain revenue, because it's pretty much them getting free work. Now, if I were playing Final Fantasy VII, where Cloud is a clown who goes around and chopping people's heads off and saying for Sephiroth, and that got super popular, they might come down on me. But if what I'm providing, which is what I hope I provide, was a way for people to bring their world into a game setting, then they'll be like, oh, okay, so all these people who want to play Final Fantasy VII Old World of Darkness, they're going to be buying our games and replaying them, rewatching the movies, having to buy those movies. You know, that's my saving grace, hopefully, is I'm giving them more money by also giving them free work.
Yeah. One thing that I think we've noticed as content creators, now this might not apply to every type of fan creation, but Square Enix has been pretty open about people in the community taking some of their work and, creating videos or podcasts or, other things like that out there, artwork, and they've been very supportive of it. So, fortunately, I think that is a good thing, because they realize that the people who are creating these things are generally fans who have spent a good chunk of money on the properties. I can't speak on behalf of White Wolf because I haven't really dealt with them much, in recent, but I'm hoping that most companies see fan works as something similar.
Right. And I'm not standing up and saying, this book of mine, it is all of mine, I'm the genius behind all of this. Because if I were to do that, then I deserve to be knocked down. What I'm doing is, like, I had an idea and I made it possible off the, and I'm standing on the shoulders of all these great giants behind me and they're the ones that contributed to this.
Yep. This is a derivative of their work. You are just using it for, your entertainment and for other people to possibly enjoy and be a gateway into their products.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, while it's a very slippery slope, I hope that things end up working out on the positive side. But we
So do I.
We love the fact that you came in, showed this to us, and allowed you to come on to our show and then talk about it as well. So hopefully the people out there watching us live here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio or listening out on the podcast, give us a look. Take a peek at it, see what they think of it, and like I said, maybe they'll be interested in playing some vampire or some werewolf or some demon down the road, and maybe we'll get a few more pre-orders on Final Fantasy VII Remake. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, and if someone wanted to be a storyteller for Final Fantasy Old World Darkness, they can definitely do it with the book that I have. But if they want to get really creative, they're gonna have to buy the other books through Old World of Darkness. Like I think specifically one of the NPCs that I have in there, I listed as freaks, which are just people that have been mutated by magic and radiation, and I give kind of a list of their defects. But if you really want to have a good list of what those are or understand them more, then you have to buy into Werewolf the Apocalypse. If you want vampires to be more than just the bulky stats that I got from Hunter the Reckoning, then you're going to have to buy Vampire the Masquerade. So it's really a gateway book.
Cool. All right, I think we spent enough time on that aspect of it. Seyrr, what else were some of the thoughts that came out of this?
Let's see. I'm looking through. He mentioned that. Let's see. The fact that since it references so many different works and not just the original game, I think we might have discussed this a little earlier, but is this something where once the remake comes out, you might be interested in revisiting it and tweaking to add stuff based on what we see there?
Definitely. And the number one thing that I'm very curious about in the remake is the structure of Midgar, especially now that I just heard from you guys that they put a lot of work in the realism. And the reason why is because I was trying to go online and find any sort of planning for Midgar as a functional city, and found really nothing. I mean, there's a lot of sites out there that say, oh, well, you're in the game like you're in Final Fantasy VII, these are the areas you're in, or if you're in Crisis Core, these are the areas you're in. And there's this here, like there's Loveless Avenue here, and then of course there's Shinra's headquarters here, but there's nothing really to detail the Midgar at large. And the closest I got was, and you three might have heard of this, but there was a team of 3 who went on Minecraft, and based off the creative visuals of the original Final Fantasy VII, they recreated the entire city.
Yeah, I think I did hear about that.
I heard about that, and that's weirdly, if you look at like Minecraft cities, you see people who have like reconstructed. I mean, I think it was somebody reconstructed the Notre Dame Cathedral for a video game, and now they're using like those like that art in CAD to like redesign stuff. Like it's absolutely real, where we have these giant sandboxes where we can build stuff, and then we can walk through it in first person and say, okay, well, where would that sign be? Because all we've seen is a 20-second, motion video from a CD-ROM from 1996.
Right.
Like, but now if we get to look at it from first person, looking from the ground upwards at a neon sign, what part of that neon on the Loveless sign do we see?
Yeah, I think for the most part, a lot of that wasn't actually fleshed out because it wasn't needed. The most that we've really seen is a rough overhead view of what the sector map is. There's not really a layout as to, where the housing areas are versus, all the different commercial areas and all that. So maybe with the remake, they were able to dig a little bit deeper and flesh more of it out. I'm sure we still won't have a comprehensive, guide to the entirety of Midgar sectors 1 through 8, but, who knows? Maybe we'll just have a little bit more to work with.
Right.
Well, there's also... Oh, go ahead.
Even like the sectors 1 through 8, that's neat. And then underneath it is another sectors 1 through 8, the slums.
Yeah.
So it's not only just like the top part, but the the double decker. I mean, that's a double city all in itself. And
true.
I got nothing other than we're in the shanty town today.
I wonder if we're gonna have a house for an enemy again.
I hope so, and I hope it's as goobery looking as the original, because I want it to because it's all hyper realistic and looks super cool. I want a house with big old vampire teeth and googly eyes to just show up and have everything be played completely straight about it.
Does anybody?
Also, I believe it was called Hell House, which is just even better.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
It reminds me of one of those little Tykes playhouses.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Please continue.
And the let's see. Talking a little bit. Since the focus is on what was it? Here we are. Since you mentioned that you were drawing a bit from a lot of the stuff with Vincent, with the whole, which one was it? I can never remember the names of World of Darkness things.
Demon the Fallen.
Yeah. So a bit of the focus on there. He was mentioning that if it was something where you wanted to continue trying to develop FF7 to work with other settings, he was curious if you had heard of a system called Gumshoe that he had been playing recently that he said lends itself to hyper-competent cinematic player characters. And if it was something where you might be interested in testing out stuff that gets more of the feel of other characters or other stories in there, that might be one you might have fun exploring.
The word Gumshoe is familiar. I mean, I'd be open to other systems because I'll admit, Old World of Darkness is my favorite, and I've had a decade of experience with it. So that was kind of my go-to, and I knew what to borrow from where in order to make my thing work.
Yeah, being familiar with the system gives you a lot of stuff to work with. You're going to really know what to do and be comfortable with it. This was more of a, hey, if you want to try something a little different, this is another one that you might have heard of that might lend itself well to some of this other stuff you're trying to do. More of a, hey, this is something if you want to do further development with it that he thought you might find interesting.
Right, and I guess my best answer to that is, yeah, I'd be interested, but also, this is a fan fiction that I made for free and I'm handing out to anyone.
Yep.
if someone stands up and says, after the FF7 remake comes out, and they're like, you know what, I like your book, I also am very knowledgeable about the city planning of Midgard, can I make an addition to it? As long as there's some conference between us, I wouldn't care. And even if there wasn't, if they did it all on their own, it's not like I can come over and say like, oh my god, you messed up my work. So yeah, I'm open for people to come in and work for me, because even within the 218 pages that there's so much that I couldn't even touch on. Like it might push some people away from it, but I couldn't add in a summon materia mechanic in there, because it would have added maybe 30 more pages, because I know exactly what book I'm going to borrow from, and it's very complicated, and I'd have to figure how to bring that in. And at that point I was like, I can't bring everything into this, otherwise people are going to not want it. I mean, they may even see the page count of 218 and say no thank you.
That would be more than a little intimidating, yes.
Yeah.
Just addendums. Well, I mean,
when Klauss, when your appendix gets too swollen, you have it removed.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
I feel like if you were to put a summon materia in, I feel like it ends up just being the same as a standard magic spell. It's just named something else, and it's huge. Like, that's usually what I've seen a couple of Final Fantasy-esque systems, and that's usually what summons end up as.
Yeah, I mean, in the Final Fantasy games themselves, it is often effectively, here is this amount of damage, we're just attaching a really pretty animation to it.
Yeah, it's Fire 5.
Right. No,
that's all it is.
If there's enough popularity in this book that I made, and people want addendums, and specifically they're like, throw in the summon materia, I was going to base it more so off of the summon Bahamut in Advent Children, where it's its own entity capable of individual acts.
So it's going to be very similar to the way they're doing summons in the remake.
Or in Final Fantasy 12.
Really, the way they've done summons in almost any modern Final Fantasy, where it starts being this more actual tactically interesting thing.
I'm thinking of 10 or Type 0.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it is.
Okay, Type 0 summons are the thing that show to me why a summon should be feared.
I mean, watch
I'll
a
find that
speed run and you will never, ever, ever be able to look at Shiva and take her seriously ever again. Like, just saying.
Yeah, no, Moose showed me a video of summoning of Alexander, where it's like, see why cultures fear these and try to have the summoners killed. This makes sense.
All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to add in then, Justin, before we move on?
Well, the thing, the big thing that I want about the book is for it to be shared. So, if someone downloads it and then they have friends that are curious about it, you don't have to do the whole, oh, we'll go to the download link. Go ahead and give them the PDF. I mean, again, that might be a little bit of a not great thing for me to say with the whole copyright issue, but I'm already screwed as it is, so I might as well go all in. So
in for a penny, in for a penny.
Copyright, go.
Right. So yeah, the link that it has it on is Dropbox, and we all know that Dropbox has a share limitation. So if for some reason it reaches its maximum that day, and someone wants it and you have it, give it to them. And in addition to that, once you play it, tell me how it went, because I would have loved to have played it, but I didn't have the people at the right time. And if there is a podcast who does one-time shot or one-shots and stuff like that and record it, give me a link so that I can listen in, because that would make it worth it to experience people enjoying the thing that I made.
Well, I was just going to say, if there's anybody out there who wants us to give it a try, just let us know. And if anybody would be interested in potentially rolling a character, and maybe we do, say, a 3 or 4 hour session on that, we can try and get together on Discord and do some of that. or like I said, Safe out there, he's got a copy of this, and I guess he has an active group that he plays a lot of these World of Darkness games with.
He does have a old World of Darkness thing going. In fact, I was going to invite him to come along and share some of his thoughts and other commentary in person, except his game is actually tonight. So.
Well, if he gets a chance to take a look at it as well, I've shared the link now twice in the Twitch chat, and we will be also attaching it to the show notes. It'll be a little bit.ly link, so it's not quite as long as the Dropbox link that you provided.
Right.
But it links directly to Dropbox, so if you wanted to go out there, download the PDF, take a look at it, and see if it's something you might be interested in adding to your tabletop role-playing group's repertoire, or giving it a try, we'd love to hear about it. And I will make sure that we pass that information along to Justin as well. Justin, this has been an absolute pleasure. I thank you for contacting us, telling us all about this, and joining us tonight to share your work here. And I hope that people get some enjoyment out of it, and it becomes a fun game to play.
Me too. And also one last thing, everyone, please forgive the typos. I'm sure they're all in there.
There's a couple, but you know, I'm sure somebody out there maybe will be willing to help do some fixing on that too. So
I'm not perfect.
Come on, you're supposed to be a playwright. I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah.
If people want to get a hold of you, Justin, do you have any social media that people could contact you at?
Well, I am on Facebook. I also realize that I need to start expanding more. I believe. Well, my email is blasdelproductions@gmail.com, and that's probably the best way to contact me about projects or anything like that. But
okay.
Yeah, I'm very approachable in Facebook. If you send me a message, I'll probably say, "Who is this?" And if you say, well, you know, I have a really good deal on a timeshare, I'll block you. But if yeah, we all experience that. But
or maybe you say Phoenix Down Radio sent you, or you heard us on the podcast.
Definitely, yeah, that would be nice.
No, then you're definitely blocking. No, those guys are terrible.
Yeah, well, maybe after the first 5, and we're like, okay, no more.
Well, like I said, this was a great time, and like I said, I'm hoping maybe my schedule will open up to where I can give it a try if people are interested in seeing it here on the channel. If you guys out there give it a shot, do let us know. We want to hear about it. Because like I said, we really like to showcase things that are happening out in the community, and this is definitely a pretty big one. So Justin, again, thank you so much for joining us today. You're welcome to stick around for as long as you want. I know you have to go to work here in a couple hours, but like I said, we really do thank you for your time.
Yeah, I think I might head out just to kind of prepare for that. But yeah, this was my first podcast. Thank you for giving me that experience. Yeah, it was interesting, and I will share the link. And like, oh, everyone, I'm famous now. I was on a podcast. Woo!
So we're getting another 2 listeners. Great. Just kidding.
Yeah.
No, like I said, we do this because we enjoy Final Fantasy. You did this because you enjoy Final Fantasy and Older World of Darkness, and it shows. So,
well, I appreciate the appreciation, honestly. That's my thing, is if someone appreciates the thing I've made, that's what I need.
I hear you. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and you have yourself a wonderful evening. We'll be in touch soon.
All right, good. And one thing for you, Klauss, if you do play it, just know that I totally erase the maximum 10 dice limitation in the book, so get a lot of D10s.
Oh, I have a lot of D10s.
Good.
Trust me. So.
All right. Well, Seyrr, it was nice meeting you. Taliz, nice meeting you as well. If I create something new, I'll definitely send your guys' way.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing from you in the future, my friend.
All right. Well, all 3 of you take care.
All right. Thanks again. You have a wonderful evening.
Take care, man. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
So that was a lot of fun, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. You know, like I said, being an old school, Old World of Darkness geek from almost 20, actually more than 20 years ago. I remember my friend introduced me to Vampire while I was still in high school, which would have been 96 and 97.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, this system is quite old. So am I. But
You're not that much older than me. I grew up near where Wizards of the Coast is based.
mhm.
So like tabletop RPGs are just kind of ubiquitous with nerds in gaming.
Truth. All right.
So I just grew up with it.
So I hope you guys all enjoyed that. And like I said, I figured it was cool to bring in something very different to our Final Fantasy based podcast. So
Agreed.
all right. So something we haven't had in a while. Something you guys all enjoy intently, and probably the biggest reason why you guys continue to listen to us. Seyrr, are you trying to tell me that you don't want to do this?
I was hoping one of these days it might be on a show that didn't run over to 3 hours.
I think what we need to do is move your segment to the beginning of the show.
I was about to suggest it was like, what about next? Oh wait, no, live letter.
Yeah. Do we want?
Oh my god.
Do you want to pick just the first part of this, and
Sure.
we'll make this a 2-part lore
Sure.
session?
So yeah, I had been putting together stuff since with a lot of the revelations about Ascians, about all the setting stuff, questions that we've been having in some cases since some of these questions have literally been since 1.0 about what these various creatures are, what's going on with it. And so I got the request to go ahead and put together everything we know, everything we think we know about a lot of stuff with the Ascians, with a lot of setting there. That said, it ends up being a lot. So we'll start with just some of the location stuff for this time around, looking at the ocean depths of Norvrant, the Tempest, with a lot of the locations that we have there, some interesting references there. Just kind of exploring that, looking at, as I said, a number of real-world references and how they kind of tie into what we've got with the setting here. And then we'll be expanding on that next time, or possibly the 28th. We'll work it out.
Eventually.
Into what all of this might mean. So for now, we'll start with the Tempest, of course, that undersea area in Norvrant, which it was pointed out that a lot of the things that we find down there did also once exist on the source, and in fact existed in all the Shard worlds, given that they were all split off shortly after the fall of Amaurot. It was more the fact that on the source, they've been erased by calamity after calamity. When the world gets reshaped around 7 times, there's usually not a lot of ruins left over. But down there, first off, in the Tempest area, that of course is the reference to Shakespeare's The Tempest. One of his, I believe it's classified as a comedy because not everyone dies. Let me verify.
Is that what classifies as a comedy?
I mean, fairly, if he's using the same 6 jokes that are in every other comedy, and frankly, the tragedy's funnier.
Yeah, it is listed in the first folio as the first of his comedy, although it deals with both tragic and comic themes. Pretty much the old stuff, it was either a tragedy, which means that everyone dies, or a comedy, which means that not everyone dies.
Just
there may
mostly
still be
everyone.
Not even mostly everyone, just it's kind of more of a thing of what it's focused around, but the massive deaths is a thing that tended to be a part of it. These days, we're a little more thoughtful in how we classify stuff, so those are kind of more deprecated descriptions, but within that, it is considered one of Shakespeare's comedy. Dealing with people who are lost at sea, stranded on an island, encountering the magician, all sorts of stuff going on with that. It's a good play, worth seeing. But the area of the Tempest itself is filled with references to Shakespeare's The Tempest. The area music, for instance, called Full Fathom 5, that is taken directly from a verse passage in The Tempest. Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones are coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. Sea nymphs hourly ring his knell. Hark, now I hear them, ding dong bell. Now the term full fathom 5, a fathom is 6 feet. Some of you may have also heard this from reference to the name Mark Twain, taken from the riverboat riverboat term, where they would mark that it was 2 fathoms or 12 feet deep, which would be enough for a riverboat to safely cross. In this case, 5 fathoms is going to be about 30 feet. Before the existence of scuba gear and specialized training methods, a 30-foot depth in water is going to be effectively out of the reach of most people. And even today, 6 minimum depth for burial at sea. So talking about this character when they're being told that their father full fathom 5 lies, that he is kind of out of reach in the sense of like not like gone to this otherworldly world. It's used as this elaborate metaphor for death, and of him as the deceased father as having become part of this ocean landscape. It's not just that he's dead, but that it's kind of a strange world out of the reach of ordinary people. We have a number of geographical features in the Tempest. Trinculo Shelf and the Caliban Gap and Gorge. Those are named after characters from the Tempest. The Fish Guide even mentions an Ondo legend about the great fish god Caliban, who breathed life into one of his shed scales and named the creature that sprung forth after himself, when describing an armor-plated fish. Also, the Prospero eel and the Psychorax are fish that you can catch down there that are also named after the characters in the Tempest. Prospero, of course, being the main character and a sorcerer, and the Prospero eel is described as being believed to possess the ability to control the elements using some form of innate magic. Psychorax is the mother of Caliban, a strange magical creature, and the Psychorax is described as with an iridescent sheen from a result of ether incorporated into the shell, and so that sheen having it named after a witch of legend. So even though it seems like a place where there's not as much down there, it's just the ocean floor, we still have a lot of those oceanographic features, a lot of the life down there that they're using to pay homage to Shakespeare's Tempest and really drive home the idea of this being a strange world full of magic and unseen things. Now, as we go through that, to Amaurot, we leave Shakespeare's Tempest and enter Thomas More's Utopia. This was a work of satire about the ideal state of a republic. How should we build our societies? What is the best way to build a republic? The work is written in Latin, but the word utopia itself comes from Greek and literally translates to no place. Now, the English pronunciation to a Greek word which translates to good place. So we have kind of this dual thing of this place that best possible place. It is a good place, the ideal place, or a place that doesn't exist. And there's a lot of playing with this kind of idea in the work, exploring the idea of what is this perfect thing? Is this a perfect society that can actually truly exist?
I prefer Fruitopia personally.
You would.
But it was good.
Yeah, but Thomas More did not see fit to write about Fruitopias.
Well, he should have, because it's amazing.
He really should have. Obvious deficiency on his part.
Exactly. Sorry.
No worries. The interpretation of the book and its message are kind of massively disputed, and no one is 100% sure what Moore intended. Many of the messages that it seems to put forward are at odds with the beliefs that Moore professed to have. So there's several portions where people aren't sure, is this something he's seriously suggesting? Is this something that he's trying to make a joke about? A lot of stuff did not necessarily translate well, and there's a lot of disputes about where he was actually going with it. But for our purposes, Amaurot comes up as the capital city of the island of Utopia, centrally located among 54 cities on a crescent-shaped island. And several of the lands mentioned in Utopia in FF14. We have within, if you open up your map of the Tempest and take a look at that southern half of it, the Akura Heights, Akura meaning no Landia, the Polylarite district, Polylarite meaning much nonsense, the Macarensis Angle, Macarensis meaning happy land, and even Academia Anider, the Anider River being the river that was supposedly bordered Amaurot, and no water, so the No Water River. lots of the naming in Utopia follows this kind of paradoxical thing where you have something that is given a name that suggests this is nonsense. This is something that's being made up. This is a contradictory thing. And there's even an appearance made by actually a central role of the character Raphael Hythlodaeus, who is a traveler who has spent 5 years living in Utopia. And so, as part of his role in the story, tells the other characters about Utopia, about the way they run things. It's kind of their guide to the city, effectively. The name Hythlodaeus literally translates as expert of nonsense. And that was one where, again, they kind of had this reference throughout. You have this utopian city, this ideal perfect land, this thing that Emmett Selk has, from his memories of it, recreated and populated with the people. And you even have this person in Hythlodaeus who acts as kind of as our guide to it, telling us important information about it, giving us the relevant pieces that we need to connect up those last bits of the puzzle. So it was kind of a interesting way to explore, hey, you have this ancient utopia, while at the same time referencing a lot of stuff that also appears in the work about, is this truly a utopia? Is this something that we should be sacrificing to bring back? Is this something that, okay, maybe it's being described as such, but it's not worth the sacrifice? And leaving it good and ambiguous. This is one thing that I know a lot of people have loved about the story, how it's not clear-cut what the right course of action was. It's understandable why Emmett Selk wanted to bring it back, this kind of perfect society that he saw as this ideal solution, and the people that we have today. So making those references, invoking all of that, seemed like a really subtle and clever way to explore a lot of these ideas. And maybe get people reading some of their classics.
Nah, that's not what they were trying to do.
The teams that work on these games are absurdly well read. I'm kind of curious what their various degrees are in. Just looking through some list, I saw a whole bunch of different literary references, a few pop songs. There's a lot to draw from there. Almost anything you see in this game ends up being a reference to something else, and even if it's just like invoking a famous phrase. And it's really fun to take a look through a lot of those, see what you can extract out of it, and see how this is kind of communicating that deeper meaning there.
That's video games, though. That's video games in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even in testing, people would come in, they'd say, oh, I have a degree in game design. I'm like, cool, don't care. That dude flies helicopters and I used to deliver pizza. And we're working on a game about soccer. Like, it doesn't matter, but everything you know will show up in a video game somewhere. This is how the development process is.
Yep.
You draw on what you know.
In part because unless it's like something absolutely violent, or it's like, say, a sports game where you're specifically trying to create a particular, you're doing some kind of storytelling, and you're going to draw from all the bits of culture and knowledge that you have to try to tell a good story.
All right, I think that was a nice little lore tidbit for tonight.
Yeah, and that'll help set the stage, because next time we'll go ahead and actually delve deeper into that history of Amaurot, see how that leads us to the Ascians, to their activities throughout the entirety of our game. Kind of gives us a bit more of an idea going these past, oh my god, how many years has it been? A lot of years.
Well, in total, it's been almost 10 years.
Good lord. And yes, we'll get into this a bit more next time, but as I said, Ascians, the concept of Ascians and the stuff that they're doing is something that's been there since 1.0. It's not necessarily clear what their original intention was, how fully it was developed, how much of stuff they had versus how much they've later, but some aspect of this has been a guiding part of the game's foundation since the start.
Absolutely. All right, so now you guys have had a little bit of lore. Hopefully you guys are hungry for more next time.
Inject the lore in between your toes. That makes it less noticeable.
No, that's so gross. Nobody needs this.
You don't need lore tracks. Come on. All right,
Oi, oi,
guys.
oi.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode. So if you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. We think we're out on Spotify as well, or whatever your preferred podcatcher is. And if it's at all possible, make sure to leave us a rating or review. It helps other people find our show and lets us know what you think of it, as well as helps us grow out within the podcast community. And if you really dig the show, please consider subscribing here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio. Or if you want to become a patron out on our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/PhoenixDownRadio, like our amazing friend Aurori Fenrir. What we get from that helps us to grow the show, helps us cover some of the mundane things like hosting costs, and allows us to do some fun stuff. Like we can get some new games to play, we can do some giveaways, we can have some fun stuff like that go on.
Little Timmy can get his operation.
Who's little Timmy?
Oh,
Chili.
Yes, little Chili can get his operation.
You mean to have a Nando's buckets surgically attached to his jaw?
Probably.
That is another thing that is a bad idea.
For a lot of reasons.
Oh my god, people.
But any kind of support, whether it's likes, emails, retweets, follows, subs, it's always greatly appreciated because we just love hearing from you guys. We love interacting with people in the community, and I hope you guys know that. If you want to check out our backlog of podcasts or see any other interesting things that we may post, you can go out to our website at PhoenixDownRadio.com. If you have questions, suggestions, anything you want to hear, you can email us, podcast@PhoenixDownRadio.com. If you prefer to catch us out on social media, we are at PHXDN Radio on Twitter, or you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/PhoenixDownRadio. So, we're at the point where we want to do some shout-outs. Who wants to start?
I got this one since I think Sarah's voice needs a break. So I'm Taliz Marvelous. You can find me on Twitter at TALIZ Marvelous. I just posted a picture of me holding 100 gil. If you want that 100 gil, follow PHXDN Radio on Twitter and retweet that picture, and I will pick somebody by next week. If you follow me on Twitter, be forewarned, there's a lot of pictures about cars, a lot of crap about moving to Japan, and a lot of bitching about anime.
But it's all good stuff.
Oh, it's all good stuff. It's just stuff. I'm a shit poster. What can I say?
It's just a lot of stuff is the big thing.
Always. Too much.
Well, he is the most interesting potato on the planet.
What about that one that looks like a penis?
I think I'm more interesting than that.
Oh, good job then.
Sweet.
You're a sweet potato?
God, I hope not. I
What's
want to
wrong
be
with sweet
vodka. I
potato?
want to be vodka someday.
Why can't you
Oh,
make...
man.
I mean, people,
Yeah, now I'm wondering, could you do that?
people can make vodka out of sugar cane. Why couldn't you do it out of sweet potatoes?
Wait, wouldn't that just be rum?
No. Vodka is how it's distilled.
Oh.
Fair.
There's other processes involved with rum.
Okay then. TIL.
Yes.
Today we learn things. Learning has taken place.
Yes.
Seyrr, you're up next.
All right. So shout outs to a bunch of people who have helped me with crafting submersible parts, which I did a lot of over the last couple of weeks. Like a lot. Oh my god, I found this amazing sub part calculator and it kept me up until 2 a.m. last
Do you have a
night.
Coke problem again, Seyrr?
No, I have moved beyond Coke. Now I need crypto, which either means Cryptomeria lumber or it means cryptocurrencies for God knows what I'm getting into because I'm going to use it to make sure you can't trace it. I mean, innocent things. Lots of innocent things. But shout outs to, among others, Magnus Aurelian, Casca Couch, Azin Gabori, Limecat Indignatio, Cyrilla Wrongway, and Kyle Spender for providing materials and for being willing to respond to my, hey, I need 3 people for company crafting at all hours, both day and night.
I think I AFK'd for that at one point too.
Oh, yes, no, you did show up for a couple of them. Yes,
I did.
I've been making a lot of submersible parts, okay?
Congrats.
Woo! You can find me on Twitter at FFXIVSEYRR, where I post random interesting things I find working at the library, occasionally stuff that I have cooked that looked pretty, or other neat stuff like that.
Very cool. And I want to shout out our guest tonight, Justin Blasdel. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, sharing your work with us, your fan fiction, your adaptation of the Final Fantasy VII story within the Old World of Darkness. Trying to word it so he doesn't get in trouble. Shout out to Seyrr and Taliz for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Taliz, thank you for the recap on KupoCon. Seyrr, thank you for bringing the lore back.
Good King KupoCon, good King. Wait, what?
That's Alex. Alex is King Kupo.
Excellent.
Are you trying to summon Alex now?
Maybe. You'd have to get here from PEI, and that's quite a distance.
I mean, he sounds like a nice guy.
But, you know, if we summon him, he may not be the same Alex.
We could get him a little bit taller. I don't think he'd mind.
We'll burn that bridge when we
He might be
to
a
it.
lot taller and more malicious, depending on...
I'm messaging him right now telling him that you said that.
Well, you know what happens when we end up summoning primals?
Bad things?
They're not
Or
necessarily...
Does it turn into a go-kart?
They're... No, that's only when we remember it.
When we don't remember it, just because it hits like a truck.
When we quote-unquote remember it.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody watching us live here at twitch.tv/Phoenix Down Radio and listening us out on the podcast. Like I said, thank you so much for all of your support. We couldn't do this without you guys. And if you want to find me out on Twitter, I am at PHXDN_KLAUSS. I post whenever I can about random stuff, talk about some cool things. Lately, I have been following a lot of the Twitter philanthropists, because I think at this time of year, people who are able to help other people is one of the best things that can be done. So I want to make people kind of see that. And if somebody's holiday season can be brightened by somebody who is in a position to help, I think that's a wonderful thing.
People who help people. I forget how the song goes.
But you know what I mean.
Good enough, but yes.
Woo!
So for our guest, Justin Blasdel, for Seyrr Timono, and for Taliz Marvelous, I am Klauss Nightbringer, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you again for joining us. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Open to music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.